Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead special call meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, and it is now 5:06 p.m. Could you call the roll, please, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Fletcher. Here. Councilwoman Avila.
Here.
Councilman Ross.
Here.
Councilwoman Konsky.
Here.
Councilman Cannibal.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mayor Lawson.
Here. We are awaiting the arrival of the Public Works Director and Mr. Morales. So if we could proceed to tab 2, Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tab number 2 is an item that we are bringing forward with respect to a request from the Chabad of Homestead and Cutler Bay to host the annual public menorah lighting in a location on the Lawson Park.
Council, any questions, comments? What action do you need from us?
So the applicants, the organization is asking for council to allow them to be able to stage the events as they've routinely done in the city as part of the annual lighting program. It's going to be on Tuesday, December 16th at 5:30 p.m.
In the past, has any council member sponsored this? Is there a fee involved?
So I think from available records, last event was in 2024, and Councilman Clemente Canabal sponsored it for $750.
Okay. All right, so we're on the same situation. Yes, Councilwoman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. For an event that's not being made exclusively for any particular party or group, and it's my understanding that this is open to the public and they're just asking for permission to hold the activity. I'm not sure why this particular event, and any others for that matter, would be subject to having to pay a fee unless we're incurring costs from a city level, staffing, equipment. If they're just requesting permission for access to the park to hold the gathering and they're not making it exclusive to their party, can we just grant access?
Councilwoman Avila, in this case, it is not exclusive, and therefore the fee for that reason. So one, there's a rental facility fee that would always be applicable to any facility. In this case, because the city has an event happening and they're looking to do their event, we have not imposed any fee in this case because it's all there. The park is already activated. In other instances, for example, last year, the $750 that was sponsored by Councilman Cannibal happened because they were using the space, or rather, they were reserving the space for the purpose of the event.
But to clarify, it wasn't a closed event. Anybody could show up.
Last year as well, correct?
Correct.
Right. So I mean,
Well,
just
every
moving-
year.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, moving forward, I would prefer for these items to just have a fee waiver if they're not being exclusive and there's no fees or overtime or staff incurred costs. I'm not sure why is there a cleanup cost?
That's what I would think.
The Parks Department will be bringing forward an ordinance to codify all of the park fees shortly, and if there are changes that we want to make to our fee schedule and how we decide to levy fees, then I think we can discuss that when we bring that ordinance forward, and that'll be coming probably next month.
Great
Okay.
point. Thank you. I'll reserve for that. Thank you.
All right, so we've got two issues. We've got the monetary issue tonight, and I think, the permission is, kind of an administrative thing, and I'll pledge the first $500 of their cost from my accounts.
No,
So, Mr. Mayor,
there is no cost tonight.
There's
Fees.
no cost to it.
Okay, no
There's no cost.
So it's just a matter of, yes, you can do it.
Yes, you can do it.
Make the motion
That's
Just
to
moved
approve.
by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilman Roth. Is there any further discussion or public comment on the granting of permission of this annual event? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a roll call vote.
Councilman Fletcher,
Yes.
Councilman Cannibal. Yes. Councilman Roth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Konsky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila. Yes. Vice Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So we'll move on to tab 3.
So tab 3 is it's a discussion item with guidance for direction. The Miami Association of Realtors had made donation to several cities in the county, asking to place what they consider monument signage with the names of the cities. So for the case of Homestead, it's called the Homestead Monument Letters. So I'm going to ask Mr. Josh or Kima.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Josh Rios. Let me see if this works. Perfect. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, staff is seeking direction regarding the preferred location for installing the Homestead Monument letters donated to the city by the Miami Realtors, the Association of Realtors. This installation is intended to activate public space, enhance our civic identity, and serve as a welcoming landmark for both residents and visitors. The Miami Realtors launched a countywide grant program to support placemaking efforts that build community pride. Through this initiative, Homestead received these large format letters at no cost to the city. Similar installations have already been successfully implemented in Coral Gables, Miami Gardens, Miami Springs, and Miami Lakes, where they have become recognizable landmarks and popular gathering points for photo opportunities and selfies. So you see Miami Gardens had a little ceremony right next to their archway. The Homestead letters act as a distinctive monument and visual anchor for our community. They create a photo-friendly destination, encouraging residents and visitors to stop, explore, and share their experiences, all while promoting Homestead organically through social media and word of mouth. This type of installation can also increase foot traffic and overall activity in the area, directly supporting nearby businesses and contributing to a more vibrant downtown. As you see, there's also one that in Miami Lakes. So staff recommends the placement beyond the north side of the City Hall Plaza near the intersection of Civic Court and Park Place. This location offers visibility, pedestrian accessibility, and integration with an existing civic gathering space. It also positions the letters as a welcoming feature for all those approaching City Hall. If council is supportive of this proposed location, staff will also explore potential enhancements, including adding city of, as we've discussed in other iterations of placemaking monuments, incorporating AIPP-style wrapping, and even installing uplighting to increase visibility and aesthetic appeal in the evening hours. Tonight, we're not going to be discussing those 3 items. Those may be items for the future, but we're talking about specifically the placement of these letters in which location. Finally, staff, at the request of the Miami Realtors, is requesting a placement ceremony to be held December 12th at 10:30 a.m., given council's approval of that time and date. With that, staff respectfully seeks direction from mayor and council regarding the preferred location of the Homestead letters and authorization to proceed with the next steps. If you have any questions, myself or Deputy City Manager Kamar Brown may be able to answer. Thank you.
Council? Yes. Councilman Fletcher.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't ask this question in our earlier briefing, but how will these be attached to the foundation or the concrete?
So we are going to engage a structural engineer to design the anchors based on the wind loads. Especially, it's going to be a Cat 5 usually for wind suppression, as well as the ability to withstand the wind forces. In addition to that, Josh had ably mentioned that we'll be looking forward to having an uplighting as well. There is also indication of art in public places, for perhaps to wrap them in different colors, because they all come in one color, white. Council may decide to relocate the signage, may not necessarily be permanently in one place, Council may also have alternative locations such as the frontage of the Harris Field or perhaps at the sports complex. Again, everything is at the discretion of council.
Thank you. Zach,
That's just my question. Thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor?
I'm good.
You're good? Good with the placement?
I'm good also. What do we need to remove?
Well, yeah, because, we may find a better location. Pardon?
Can we accept the donation and then have a further discussion another time on location? I mean, it looks nice there, but there are some other ideas to consider.
Yep. So, if I may, the reason we propose that location is to allow them to come in on Friday, have the formal placement ceremony, then it becomes the property of the city. The city now can decide where we want to put
Figure
it
it out.
permanently.
Okay. So do we have a motion to accept it and make this the initial placement, temporary placement?
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
What costs, are we incurring any costs on the initial placement? Because you have to secure these letters.
No, we are not intending to permanently fix it. It's just for the formal ceremony on Friday. We'll take it back indoors until council decides.
Where are you storing the letters? These
It's
are not
actu-
foam letters, right? They're heavy.
It's,
Metals,
These are-
heavy
it's
metal.
actually being stored in the Development Services Department.
Mr. Mayor.
And you're also welcome to go take a look after the council meeting or some other time.
And sorry to interject, but this is a hard date, it must be received by this time?
That's correct. It's a freebie.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So
Councilman
I'm
Fletcher?
more than happy to move the acceptance. Friday's kind of a hard day, I think, for some. If we need to do the ceremony on Friday, I get it. But I too think that this is probably the best location initially, and maybe we add additional sites where we can put these letters as well, leaving these here, but adding those later as needed. Just a thought. But I would make the motion to accept. Pending if they need to have the event on Friday, it's going to be hard for some of us to come to, but maybe we can look into next week for a formal meeting that gives all of us a little time to plan. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there anything? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think if we could understand how much it would cost to secure it, it would also be easier to decide if we do want this as a temporary spot or if it's too much to move later on. Because it does have to be a city-owned building.
Correct.
So to have something right now that would be ready, I don't know if we have anything, but if the cost isn't too high and we want to let it start here and then eventually move it somewhere else, we can.
Yeah, I think that, it would be foolhardy to accept them and put them in storage. Let's place them so that they're not forgotten about. And then we can think about a more permanent home as things evolve. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Konski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilman Cannibal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. We're still awaiting everyone for the first item, correct? Still waiting. Okay.
Second traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, they're stuck in traffic, stuck at the busway crossing. All right, let's move on to tab 4, Mr. Pearl.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 4 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving an amendment of the existing power purchase agreement between the City of Homestead and Florida Municipal Power Agency, providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mr. Manager, who's got this one? Oh, of course,
So-
Barbara has this one.
Barbara?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. And this item is to amend an existing contract with FMPA, the Florida Municipal Power Agency. And the amendment calls for extending the term of the agreement through the end of 2031 and also adding an additional 7 megawatts to the existing contract. The existing contract is 15 megawatts, and this would bump it up to 22. And The terms and conditions, the pricing remains the same. This is one of our better priced contracts. It's currently set to expire the end of next year. And just to give ourselves some room for expansion, we're looking to extend it out through the end of 2031.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, let me open it up for public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and I'll ask for a motion to approve this item. Moved by Councilman Cannonball,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Bailey. Let's have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? I'm sorry, Councilwoman
Vice Mayor.
Konski?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Cannibal?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And moving on to tab 5, Mr. Pearl.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, tab 5 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving amendment of existing network transmission service agreement between the City of Homestead and Florida Power and Light Company, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Barbara?
Yes, Mayor. This is also an amendment to an existing agreement, and this is just to extend the transmission agreement that we currently have with Florida Power and Light, and to extend that through the end of 2031. No changes to the terms or conditions. Having transmission access allows us access to the statewide grid, and through that grid, we're able to purchase power. We're also able to sell power. Just allows us that access, and it's an extension on the time frame for that agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, so let's open a public comment. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a motion to approve this item. Moved by Councilman Cannonball, second by Councilman Fletcher. Roll call, please.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilman Cannibal?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Konski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And tab 6, Mr. Pearl.
Tab 6 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the First Amendment to the agreement between the City of Homestead and Murphy Pipeline Contractors, LLC, for the Pump Station 22 Bypass Project, authorizing the city manager to execute the First Amendment and accept the consent of surety in lieu of final release of lien, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council on this item? We've all been briefed. Go ahead. Are there any questions for our director? All right, now let's see if there's any public comment. We'll close the public comment section, and I'll ask for a motion to approve tab 6.
Okay.
Moved by Vice Mayor, second by Councilman Cannibal. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Cairo, for that
Councilwoman Avila?
in-depth, wonderful analysis.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Cannibal?
Yes.
Councilwoman Konski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, very good. Let me ask, do we have an ETA yet before we get into the next item? It could be pretty lengthy. Okay, so I think they're here, so I think let's go back to tab 1. Those at home who just tuned in must be very confused.
You could always lead us in song.
I don't even know how to answer that. In an appropriate manner, that's what I meant. Is the mic on? Is this mic on? Okay, good.
Good afternoon, Council. Stacy and Chief Morales, they are still tied up. They may have gone to the wrong location, so they're a few minutes out, but I don't want to hold everyone up, so if you guys would like, I can begin the presentation and walk you through what we've been doing for the city.
Did they go to the temporary city hall or the vacant city hall? Well, you know what? Let's go ahead to the loan item. Let's go to tab 7, and we'll come
Okay.
back when they're here. A lot of uncertainty. All right. So, Mr. Manager, let's go to tab 7. Mr. Pearl?
Yes. Tab 7 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing the issuance of its water and sewer utility system revenue note series 2025 in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $12 million for the purpose of financing the cost of improvements to the city's water and sewer system and paying cost of issuance of the note, awarding the sale of the note to South State Bank N.A., providing for security for the note, containing other provisions relating to the note, making certain covenants and agreements in connection therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Well, now that we've done that, I see Mr. Morales is here. All right, let's go ahead. Mr. Manager, present this item.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, this is one of the key infrastructural engagement initiative and investment for the city as we look forward for economic developments in the city. Without doubt, the water and sewer infrastructure requires a lot of investment, and we're lucky that we're taking a very proactive steps to address the lapses we find in the system. And kudos and thanks to the Finance and Budget Director for spearheading this initiative, and we're asking Council to approve this. If there's any question, I'm asking the Finance Director to provide you clarification. I was hoping to get to a later stage to make a very important announcement that today, Governor Ron DeSantis was at a public press conference where he announced a grant of $4 million to the city to assist us with infrastructure improvement along Chrome Avenue, specifically for sewer. And a few minutes, this was something that happened at noon today. And I had sent out a memo to Mayor and Council as well on this.
All right. So, any initial questions or comments from council on this item? On the borrowing of $12 million secured by future revenues. Right now at full draw, I think the estimate's about $960,000 a year in debt service.
So, Mayor, if I may, can I ask the Finance Director to provide the details of this loan, which is specifically for Chrome Avenue project, the Flagler Avenue project, as well as the famous Pump Station 11?
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief. If you recall, during the budget hearings, we agreed that these were 3 vital projects. We provided what the original costs were, what the funding that had been made available through different sources, like the sale of fill, the PFAS settlement, some state appropriations, but there was still a gap of approximately $12 million, and we agreed that we would come back to council with a proposed loan. What we did is during that budget process, the water and sewer budget was approved with a debt service, annual debt service of $1,067,000. The proposals that were received, we received 7 proposals from 4 banks. We took the best 2, we asked them for their best and final offer, and what's being recommended tonight is a loan from South State at 4.19% over 20 years, and the debt service on that, the average annual debt service will be $901,000. So a significant reduction in what we had anticipated.
Thank you, sir. Council, questions? Vice Mayor Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Was there a grant also that we were trying to receive for this that fell through recently, or am I thinking of something else?
Vice Mayor, you probably meant to refer to the $2.2 million that we previously received from the federal government for Pump Station 11 that was clawed back. So we resubmitted that grant application, and it has successfully advanced through committee stage in Congress. So we are hoping that once it gets through, that will be utilized for Pump Station 11 upgrade. The Pump Station 11 project envisaged in this loan request is specifically for the transmission system to enable all those projects that are still pending to be able to connect and also address the moratorium that we have currently with Durham.
Okay. I thought it was a little more than 2.2. Yeah, obviously, unfortunate that it has to end up being a loan, but I think that, I hope we can all agree that especially Pump Station 11 has been a real big piece that we need, especially for developments that have worked hard and are impatiently waiting. What happens does this fall in line with some of the other things where if we receive grants, we'd be able to use that to pay back the loan as well?
If, fortunately, the city were to be successful in securing additional funding from appropriations or grants, obviously we'll be able to offset that with the loan. Okay. So we don't anticipate to spend down the loan in one chunk. Finance Director, correct me if I'm wrong. What we intend to do is to structure funding of these projects as we move forward. If at any time we're able to get additional grant applications, obviously we will not be able to draw from the loan.
So it's not like the bonds where we wouldn't be able to apply for a grant to use to pay back that loan?
Depending on the grants, some grants specifically has to be shovel ready. They might not allow a project that's started, but other ones, if depending on when you apply for it, if you can apply that's already a current project and it's to replace the funding, that's a possibility. Unlike, though, the general obligation bond, this $12 million is for the full $12 million. Upon closing, we will be receiving it. Okay. With the general obligation one, that's the one that we're funding it over a series.
Okay. Now, I know it's a big chunk of change, but when we take into consideration the economic development that will come from it, I think that this is a good move for us. So, thank you. That's all I have.
If I may, Mayor and Council, some of these projects is going to be benefiting customers that are outside the city limits, and they would have to contribute in paying it back. It's not just based on city residents. Unlike if you were to use general fund balance, that's a general fund, which is why we don't advocate for that. We prefer a funding mechanism that every potential user has to participate in paying it back, whether you live in the city or in a service area that is outside the city limits. And if you look at some of the projects that are still pending, a number of them are outside the city limits.
Yes, thank you.
Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask, is this loan specific to the projects, or is it just based on the revenue generation? The loan amount, the terms of the loan?
The
Is it
amount of
specific
the
to the
loan is
project?
based on the gap that we identified, if you recall, during the budget process. Like I said,
But is the loan conditional to the specific projects?
there's language where it can be for other water and sewer improvements, but these are the main three. But the language does allow that it could be for other water and sewer improvements.
Excuse me, I think you're asking, are all customers paying the loan or just the new customers? Is that what you're asking?
No, specific to Pump Station 11,
Okay.
upgrade, the Flagler Sewer, main force main,
Mm-hmm.
and the Chrome Avenue.
It's right. It's predominantly for those three projects, but there is language in the resolution that allows for other water and sewer improvements. So that, again, like the manager said, if we come across other funding that could be replaced and either to repay it or the bonds could be used for other improvements. If we can't use it to repay it, but we get the grant could be used for something else, then these could be used for other water and sewer improvements. But there is language in there to give us that cushion.
I think one of the main concerns that I have with regards to the project for Pump Station 11, or the bypass, is that we don't have plans from Hazen and Sawyer or any other consultant specific to the bypass itself. We have just the improvements that are supposed to be made to the pump, and that one is at 60% plan completion. So it's supposed to go back to Hazen and Sawyer. Go ahead and give me an update. Thank you.
So the original task and scope for Hazen and Sawyer included both the pump and the force main. So when we received the 60% plans, it included both the pump and the force main. That's what we have right now. And that is the alignment following 4th Street, midway between 187 and Chrome, and then stepping down until eventually it reaches Chrome and Lucy Street. So we do have 60% for the alignment. And although originally we were thinking of adjusting it to make it a little bit shorter, smoother in a sense, we will go back to the original alignment that we have 60% plans for to expedite the project now that the loan has been secured, if it's approved by council. So we do have the 60% plans, we have the alignment, we have the survey associated with it, the geotechnical, and all we have to do is finalize them and go through permitting.
Right, but you told me during briefings with the city manager that those plans needed to be completely redone because they were not inclusive of the projects that had been approved, including the TML building, Tower Commons, Homestead Gardens, the Lucy Street properties, and then 2 unincorporated Miami-Dade County projects.
So what I, and maybe I failed to express it correctly, is that the original scope that Hazen had, they did not account for those for the pump station. But since then, we got another consultant to do the analysis, and the force main that we had, the 12-inch, is more than enough for all the future improvements. The pump station, though, is not. So we do require the 2.2 million that we're still expecting to be able to go back at such time as we did in Pump Station 22 and upsize the pump station itself. But the force main, the 12-inch force main, is more than sufficient to account for not only the developments that we have waiting in line now, but we also asked our consultant to analyze an even greater area around the city limits that would eventually be part of our service area because the county doesn't have service in that area. So we just wanted to think ahead and make sure that we accounted for that too. But that's only on the pump station site. The force main, the numbers work fine, that the 12-inch force main that we have in the 60% plans are fine.
And this secondary consultant that you have
AECOM,
review, that occurred when? When did they review those plans?
When did they review the plans?
Yeah, recently, a while ago.
We gave them the PO approximately a month and a half ago, and right before we had our meeting, they had submitted to me the draft BODR, we call it, the report, which stated that what I just mentioned to you.
So is that part of the $130,000 that we spent on consultants for this project already?
No,
So it's an addition, so it's a separate invoice?
We have a set amount that we have negotiated with that consultant for any hydraulic analysis that we need. They prepare for us for a set amount, and we give them that as a standalone task order.
Okay, and then the Flagler sewer connection, that, my understanding is that that is supporting the Old City Hall site? And does that affect the Flanagan's contract at all? Is that a city manager question? Flanagan's has not closed, correct?
So the flow from Flanagan will eventually flow into the pipe that's on Flagler Avenue as well. So when you say the contract, this is not about contract, this is about infrastructure upgrades.
Right, but I'm trying to understand why we have to take a loan out now to address that sewer connection out of urgency when it hasn't, it didn't come up during the prior negotiations for the development of Old City Hall site, and Flanagan's hasn't closed, and does one have to do with the other, or are they independent?
Those are two different entities. What I'm saying is that all the flows around that Harrisfield area eventually dumps through pump station that comes to the Flagler pipe. So the Flagler pipe has been, I think it has failed a number of times and has discharged illicit spill on the streets. So sorry to say this publicly, but we need to address it, and time is of the essence so that we don't put people out of service.
And we don't have any grants or any funding for that? Has that been requested?
There's no grants available as we speak. The only additional funding we're looking forward to receive is from Miami-Dade County. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Morales is here, because Flagler is a county-maintained road. So instead of impacting the corridor twice, we are speaking to the county to see, because the county already has a project on Flagler. So we don't have to resurface the street, they come back, tear it up, and redo it again. So we're looking for their contribution in terms of restoration of the pavements.
The county's project came to our attention approximately a year ago when they always ask every municipality if they're good to proceed with the million resurfacing, and knowing that we had to do the work on along Flagler, we have been in continuous coordination with them to ensure that we do not have to throw away, whether it's our money or the county money or whatnot, because as the manager mentioned, the sewer severely undersized, severely.
Okay, thank you for the clarifications.
That conclude your questions? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Is the $4 million approved funding from the governor and the state of Florida at risk if we don't approve this loan tonight?
That's a very tough question. We don't even know the details yet. It was a struggle this afternoon to get the information I shared with council. The governor simply made a speech and left. And there was no breakdown of the grants to any of the entities. Luckily, we reached out to the Secretary of DEP, who profiled the list that we shared with council. We don't know the details yet. I don't think you want to take a risk with money. You can put conditions on your approval. You can place conditions that if the money comes and it has some additional measures, I don't know, Mr. City Attorney, do you have any recommendation to make?
If you're looking for more information on the grant itself and the implications with the loan, then I would suggest that you push this so that we can gather as much information as we can, and we can rehear it on the 17th and defer the item if that's your concern, because I don't think we have the answers tonight to provide you. We got this at noon with no details. So if you're looking for details on that, I mean, perhaps a little more time to revisit that would help you. I don't.
So if I may, based on conversation we had at the press conference today, the ability of this city to have a robust infrastructure trust fund was key to the approval. So we are looking forward to, if you receive the $4 million, council can approve to swap out a portion of the money that comes from the trust fund and put it back on the trust fund to use it as a leverage for new grant applications. Because when we went to the state for this grant money, we demonstrated that the city has this X $1 million in a trust fund, based on which they were able to give us. In fact, we mentioned that we have 5.5 million, and the project was 9.5, and they gave us the difference of 4 million. So what I recommend the council to do to consider approval If the money comes in, swap out the equivalent of the 4 million from the project and place it back in the trust fund.
I would always also like to add that the improvement for the properties that want to connect, it also adds revenue to the system. So just the connection fee, rough estimate, we're talking about $500,000, and on an annual basis, we're talking approximately, and these are rough estimates based on, the code numbers. We're talking probably 200,000 out of the 900. So a lot, and as more connect, that becomes revenue that comes into the system. That cannot happen unless we have the infrastructure. The force main goes to Chrome. Chrome is the backbone. It's all interconnected.
Can I get a clarification, please, on the refilling the trust fund? But we're not paying interest on the money we have in our trust fund currently. But if we're paying interest on all this money that we'll be getting, whether we put it in the trust fund or not, correct?
Yeah, what we're referring to is predominantly the $6.7 million that we received. That basically went into the trust fund. And if you remember on the slides that we put on these projects, that's currently one of the funding sources. So what the manager's saying is if we get the $4 million, $4 million will be used towards this project to replace that 6.7, and then that $4 million will be put back into the trust fund to be used for any future projects, and we'll have it invested and it'll be earning interest.
Did that answer your question? Okay. Is that it? Okay. All right, so, and this is maybe more so a question for and if it's the will of the council to defer this until the 17th, when we potentially have more information with respect to the terms of the grant, I will not raise my questions until that point. So let me ask Mr. Perez, is a delay of approval from now till next week, is that potentially going to impact any of the terms or an outside closing date?
If you can give me a minute, I'm going to consult with a financial advisor because I don't remember if the date was set for a certain time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's hear that. Because if we can defer it, I'll hold off on my other questions that aren't necessarily a public works question. While they're conversing, though, one little nuance, though, let's be clear, that the grant is with respect to sewer only. The loan is to construct water and wastewater. So, it's not a one-for-one. Mr.
Mayor
Perez?
and Council, the terms is basically through the 16th. That's the day that we were going to close, so we don't know that they would be holding those same terms. We can come back if we defer it. The rate may be higher, maybe
subject to rate risk.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Everybody hear that? The potential closing on the day before our next meeting is what the commitment letter, loan commitment calls for.
Don't we have a special
Well-
committee on the 15th for this item alone?
Well, but is there a situation where a conditional approval pending determination of whether or not we can put it off until the 17th? Oh, but it may not, that rate may not hold, is the issue, the interest rate.
Right, I hear you. I mean,
Yeah.
the letter, this is from we're talking about South State Bank.
Correct.
It's dated November 7th. Commitments typically are good for 30 days. We're already past that 30-day mark, so they're probably already extending the rates, which have not increased in the last
So,
month.
so to clarify then, the letter, you're not talking about an expiration date, you're talking about a contemplated closing date.
Yeah, the closing date is on the 16th, but that's through where the term for the rate
Aaron?
is for.
Okay. Did you have?
Yeah, reiterating what Carlos said, the commitment letter provides that the rate holds provided you close on December 16th.
Councilman?
Zero, you mentioned the grant was specifically for a project that we already had on the books. Is that right?
Yeah, it's for the
Chrome
Chrome Avenue sewer project.
So, do you think that if we're already self-financing the project, that they would take that grant away from us?
Well, council has not approved the financing. That's what you're trying to do tonight.
I understand that, but there's a hesitation to approve it based on that grant. With the technical aspects of accepting that grant.
I don't know how the state will view any action this council takes by not approving this loan tonight. I don't know how the state will view it. They probably will say you have money. So I don't know whether yea or nay, the grant will move forward or they will retract the grant.
So you would think they would retract the grant based on the fact that we've closed on a financing element to complete this project.
I cannot speak on behalf of the state.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what would your recommendation be? To hold off until we get more specific details of the grant?
The mere fact that I don't have for certainty that you're going to get the information you need by the 17th, because you're dealing with the state. We may get to the 17th and the information is not there. Then we've lost the ability to close on the 16th, and you don't have the information you need, then we're back again to where we are tonight. So I would recommend you move forward because of the understanding that when the grant comes in, you can swap out the money from the loan money. You put back the money that you've taken from the infrastructure trust fund. It's what, 6.7 million? You take 4 million back and place it back in your trust fund, and it's still with the city. And you utilize the 4 million from the states. We will not be where we are tonight if the governor hadn't done the press conference this morning.
No, I get it. But I think there's a little hesitation up here to forfeit the $4 million.
Exactly.
Mayor and Council, if I may, again, the loan is funding the gap. The 6.7 sale of fill is what we're anticipating taking the grant monies and replacing that. It's not impacting the amount of the loan. If anything, it's the sale of fill. That funding source is what we would basically take 4 million of that and put it back in the trust fund.
Right, but I understand that, but what I think there's hesitation is we don't know what the technical aspects of accepting the grant from the state would be, and if we nullify that by financing the project ourselves now, and they say, well, you no longer need this money, then they won't give it to us, and then we can't replenish the $4 million to the trust. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think I may have made a statement earlier that you can place a condition to this approval today that says you are approving this loan subject to the grant money coming in will be placed back we'll swap out the contribution of the trust fund. Then there will not be any jeopardy. $4 million is a lot of money to place in limbo. That if the state finds out from records that you have ability to fund this project, I don't know how they're going to react.
Would that even be typically something they would make inquiry about? I mean, this grant was made based upon our representation that we were going to put in $5.5 million of our own money.
Right.
Does it matter how we got that money?
No.
But I refer back to what Councilman Fletcher mentioned. That's why I'm still want to debate that thought, because we don't have the answers to that question. If we close on the 16th and we still don't have the information we need for accepting the grant, and there's an inquiry made that we do have the ability to fund this ourselves because of what we've closed on, will that, cancel the grant from the state? I don't understand that part of it. If it was that clear to make it a condition that we do this loan, and the state's gonna give us the money no matter what happens, and we put that money back into the trust, it's more clear for me, but it's not clear right now.
It's just clarification. We're not putting the grant money back into the trust money. We are taking a portion of the trust money back. So let's not call it grants that we're putting in the trust money.
We're swapping trust for grant.
Yeah.
We're spending grant rather than trust.
Trust.
However you guys see it, I just want, we don't want to jeopardize what the state's proffering right now.
So the grant application for the state is not needs-based. It is based on the conditions that we proffer in the grant. And one of the reasons why we received the grant is because of the amount of money that we say that we're going to use as a match. That made us very competitive. That amount of money that we knew we were going to put, the 5.5, was with whatever money we could find. We knew that we would have the loan as an option to do that stopgap, but the state does not ask how financially constrained are you. What they look at is the merit of the application, and our application was very good, mainly because we were saying that we were also putting up 5.5 million. It doesn't matter where the 5.5 million comes from, and it doesn't matter if we are flush with cash. That's not one of the parameters of the grant application. It's just on the merits of the grant and how much you're also putting forth.
Right. Could we exclude the Chrome Avenue project from this loan and only use it for the Flagler project and the pump station 11, so it doesn't jeopardize the grant that we wrote to the state? Because if you're including all three in this loan and someone asks about it, then you have to disclose that you are financing part of the Chrome Avenue project with this loan. But if we've got the money to do the Chrome Avenue project, when that grant arrives with the trust fund money, then you're not jeopardizing the grant that you wrote, I think.
Again, I think we are conflating issues here. The application for this grant money did not specify that it's coming from the trust fund. It did not.
Okay.
So I don't see why the Chrome project cannot move forward. And also the fact that the Chrome Avenue project is also is combined with the FTA money that we got. And we're combining all these funding sources to do a huge complex project on Chrome that will address the corridor in terms of the surface infrastructure, will also address the buried infrastructure, which is water, sewer, drainage, all in one shot. The FTA money, correct me if I'm wrong, has a timeline to spend it down. The more we push this project forward, you also jeopardize the, how much is that, $7.5 million?
So in total, it's 7.5. In this project, we have at least 3.5 million that we have to spend, otherwise we lose. Which is the beautification part that provides transit accessibility, mainly the sidewalk improvements, bus shelter, lighting, and the drainage improvements for the sidewalks to prevent flooding of the businesses. We're going to pitch them towards the road.
Understand.
So, yeah, and that has a timeline that's coming up.
Understand. So, Zero, you're saying that we should go ahead and do this, and we'll still get that grant?
Well, I cannot make a promise to you tonight. I don't work for the state. I'm not a staff of Governor DeSantis. Anything can happen. So in the interest of timeliness, we had pledged to council to start the Chrome Avenue project as early as first quarter of next year. The more we delay this, that timeline goes.
Got it.
Okay? And if the governor decides to change his mind tomorrow and make an announcement, that's his prerogative to make. It's not mine.
I get it. Okay. I'll listen to more comments.
Thank you. Yeah, let me get to the Vice Mayor. Not you. Vice Mayor.
So you just mentioned that we are definitely losing 3.5 million if we don't.
If we don't do the project within the period of performance for the FTA portion of it, yeah, we do lose the 3.5 million.
So can we look at it as potentially losing 4 million or definitely losing 3.5 million?
I
go through with
can
this?
honestly say that if we don't have a funding source to bridge the gap of the project, we are not getting $4 million because you have to match it.
Yeah.
And that's what made our application so strong.
Okay,
Without
just
that
wanted to clarify
5.5
that
million
piece.
match, we wouldn't have gotten it.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman?
Thank you. I think that the goal here is to get the infrastructure done. It's just a matter of, are we borrowing $12 million to do it and identifying these particular projects for the funding of the loan? Or is it unreasonable to delay this for 48 hours compared to closing on the 16th or the 18th after the council meeting once we gather more details? I don't think it's reasonable to say that South State's going to pull the loan commitment, hike up the rate to a point of inconsideration, given the circumstances in the market. So I think it behooves us, and it's more responsible of us, to get the information about the grant, perhaps get clarification about the allocation as it and what it does or how it's affected by us entering a loan, because I'm not hearing clear answers that if the state sees that we have $12 million or access to $12 million, that doesn't eliminate us. Like you mentioned, needs-based, it's not needs-based. You wrote the grant, Cairo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's in writing somewhere, if you could share
It's
that.
basically the improvements that will allow for a reduction of contamination to the Biscayne Bay aquifer by enhancing the sewer collection system, that in the future we can do more septic to sewer that flows through that backbone.
And the FDA timeline you said was what? Did you mention the timeline?
For the FTA,
FTA, yeah.
no, that project the grant doesn't have anything to do with the FDA. They don't know anything. They just base it on what is it that you want to do. In our case,
The
was
3 million,
enhance.
the $3.5 million that you're referring
It
to.
was not included in the discussion of
But
the
you
grant.
mentioned a timeline. If
Oh,
we
the
don't have,
timeline,
what's the
yeah.
timeline?
So the the farthest that we full closeout is March of 2028, and that is for this type of construction that we're doing. It's tough. It'll be tough.
So I think that just to calm the dais, we're not talking about if we don't make this decision tonight, we're going to be in violation of FTA timelines. We're going to be losing our loan that's on the table. It's high pressure, $4 million state allocations. Are we done with state appropriations, or is there possibly more coming from our lobbyists?
So the the state is actually in committee stage. The actual session starts January 13th, and 60 days after it ends on March 13th. So we still have time. We don't know what's going to come out of it, so we are optimistic that we're going to get something.
And I just want to clarify, March of 2028 is full closeout. That means construction has to be done most likely by November or December 27, which gives us a very limited construction period.
I mean, so
I know.
if
I
we're
understand. I just wanted
talking
to
about
clarify.
2 weeks, 1 week to 2 weeks time crunch here can make or break the future of our infrastructure, then I think there's bigger problems. I would like to request for the council to have more information between now and council meeting with regards to the funding that we were just advised about today, and to get clarifications on the needs base versus cash in hand, et cetera.
But just so that we're all clear, to my knowledge, the city was not aware that the grant was going to be announced until sometime between 3 and 4 o'clock yesterday, when the manager was invited to come to the presentation this morning. We had no idea. This is all very coincidental. I mean, it
Is
could have
another
been tomorrow.
option? So
Yeah.
let me, if this let's consider if this passes tonight and new information comes up, would you need a special call to cancel the closing? Or could that be administrative? To delay the closing, for example?
If we get additional information that negates the spirit and the action taken by council, definitely we'll come back to council.
You would have to pull a special call, or could it be administrative? Mayor?
We can do a special call.
We could do that potentially. Friday, depending upon, I mean, we all have a lot of activities close by on Friday, if we can get that clarification from the state. So if we're going to go forward, let me then ask these questions. I think in light of some correspondence that I became aware of just a little while ago, I think it's important that we put on the record what other alternatives have been proposed and how many units are going to be enabled to go pull permits inside and outside, just outside the city, by virtue of taking this step to go forward with the infrastructure. And I don't, whoever would be best to, I guess, I know for quite some time, I know, Mr. Manager, you've had conversations with various of the interested parties trying to come to a consensus as to how Pump Station 11 issues could be resolved and enable some of these other units to come online. That did not come to fruition, but I think it's important that we all understand and the public understands that once this infrastructure has been approved, how many units can go forward primarily on the far southwest side of the city. I think that's...
So immediately, when you consider Homestead Gardens Phase 2, what I think should be called Touching Homestead with Love, and the Lucy project, you're looking at approximately 200 units.
When you talk about Lucy project, what do you mean?
The Lucy project is along Lucy and just east of 100. It borders 187th Avenue. Yeah. So
Plus, in reality, Shotgun.
Shotgun is a little bit farther east, and that one would connect to 15, which would also get out of moratorium once we bypass. Right now, 11 dumps into 15. If we bypass it, as this project would do, then the Shotgun property could also develop. Right now, it can't because of the condition that 15 is a high hours because 11 dumps into it.
But the numbers I've heard kicked around with respect to the approvals that exist or are pending within our service area outside the city limits,
As much
plus
as 400.
plus the Tower Commons,
Oh, yeah, if we include
we're
them.
up around 750 total.
Yeah, yes, I was talking about immediate, yeah.
So 750 apartments and townhomes.
Townhomes and
And
houses.
what would be the time frame? Let's say that we have this plan and we've committed to go forward. Doesn't that enable each and every one of those interested parties to go pull permits, for sake of argument, tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
They would be able to. We also have some that have to go through the additional cost of installing septic, with the promise that they will convert to sanitary sewer once it's active, and they're made to do all the installation.
But I don't
and
think they'd
everything,
do
so-
that. They'd wait for us to catch up. But nonetheless,
Oh, no, we have one right
this
now
would
that's doing it.
enable them to pull permits and go forward.
And yeah.
So
It
let's
would be
real
conditional.
honest and transparent about the domino effect of what this entire
It would be major.
conversation is going to engender.
It will be conditional approval from DERM, knowing that we have a plan that is funded and that is going forward, because Pump Station 11 is not under absolute moratorium, it's under conditional moratorium. But yeah, they can continue with the site plan approval, with the building, with absolutely everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, council, someone want to make a motion on the, well, we can do that. Let's take a look at that. Okay. All right. Any further questions or comments from council? And I will open it up to public comment. Any public comment? Okay. No one online? Last opportunity here. Okay, so I'll close the public comment. We need a motion to go somewhere. All right,
With
move.
the condition that we receive notice if there's any issues with the grant? What would that language look like?
So you would like to approve the item, but instruct staff to bring it back to you if in the intervening time between now and closing for a special call to consider any implications based on information that they may learn the grant may have. Is that my understanding of what the ask is?
Sounds like it.
Okay.
And I'll second.
All right, so second by Vice Mayor Bailey. So if there are no further questions or comments, let's have a roll call vote on the approval of the loan.
Councilman Cannibal?
Yes.
Councilwoman Konsky?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
No.
Councilman Fletcher?
No.
Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So with that, my apologies, and let's go back to tab 1 now that our guests of honor are here, and we'll go back and clean up our business on the remaining tabs after your presentation. Welcome. I'm going to be happy to give you a quick tour.
Congratulations. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Mr. Manager, and staff. Jimmy Morales, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Miami-Dade County. The Department of Transportation and Public Works is part of my portfolio. I report directly to the mayor. I know those of you who know her know she'd love to be here and stand before you talking about some of these issues, but asked me to be here to make sure you know that obviously the things we're about to talk about are very much on her radar screen, are very much on my radar screen, and we certainly hope, I know there's been ongoing dialogue, but that this broadens it and makes sure that we are as responsive as we can be. I do want to thank your city manager, who I've known a long time. I asked him, and he sent me a more detailed list of some of the issues, and I provided that to staff, and I know they've put together a PowerPoint and are prepared to answer some of the questions and issues, but also be prepared here today to answer questions and take notes and maybe come back and if they don't have answers for those tonight. As you know, we were very fortunate about 7 months ago to steal away from the Florida Department of Transportation Stacy Miller, who had been there really most of her career, including, we all knew her well as District 6 Secretary. She oversees both, obviously, the transportation side, which I know those are some of the concerns, the BRT and otherwise, and traffic signalization, but also the roads, the bridges, and everything having to do with public works. And I know those are issues of concern to you as well. So without any further ado, let me introduce Stacy and have her say a few words and then introduce her team over here who will probably handle the presentation.
Thank you, Chief Morales. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for accommodating me. I was a little later than I expected, so thank you for accommodating me. Again, Stacy Miller, the Director for the Department of Transportation and Public Works in Miami-Dade County. As Chief Morales mentioned, we are here tonight to discuss a variety of different items. Ziri was kind enough to provide us with a laundry list of items that he'd like us to discuss. We were obviously prepared to discuss a variety of items beforehand, and we've augmented our presentation in which to do that. I would like to note that we do have a really good working relationship with the City of Homestead. Our teams work collaboratively. We have a running list of items that we work on that we discuss quarterly. So I do want you to note that we are working. We have every expectation of running through that list and making sure that we are addressing your needs. One thing before we get to the presentation, I know as part of the presentation, Flagler, and I believe you just mentioned it right when I walked in, Ziri had requested some funds. Actually, that project is funded in our program for resurfacing this fiscal year. So that will be happening relatively soon. So no need to request money from us. We're already going to handle that project this fiscal year. So we're excited to be able to bring that to you. I have with me today Frank Ira, who is our Assistant Director of Traffic Services, as well as Alex Barrios, who is our Assistant Director for Construction. Frank will be conducting the presentation, but Alex and I and Chief Morales are here to answer any questions that you may have afterwards, and we're at your disposal.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your patience. I'm Frank Ira. I am the Assistant Director over Traffic Services. I oversee the Traffic Signals and Signs Division. I'll move over. I also oversee the Road and Bridge and Canal Maintenance Group that handles a lot of the potholes and sidewalk complaints. So we do a lot of work in the city as well as with the city, try to coordinate and try to handle a lot of the complaints that come through. For the most part, we'll try to take you through what, from the traffic signal side, that we have been working on within the city, and what is the work that's being done with the BRT project. Okay. Within the city, what we've had in the last year, from the traffic signals and signs, and I apologize, I keep moving. So we've had about 873 different work orders that have been opened for work to improve signalization within Homestead. 150 of those approximately come through the 311 application and through the call center. The other 625 were actually produced and created through the traffic signals and signs teams that come, they check the timing, they come, or they get complaints directly from constituents, emails from that come in through the mayor's office. So we do have staff that comes out regularly that do checks within the city to see how the operations are working. We do get direct calls from the public, not just through 311. So in the past year, we've handled about, again, 873. About 80% of them have been completed. The ones that haven't completed typically are ones that take longer to be able to close. They are signal retiming. They are requests for signalization. They are requests that are a bit broader, and we have to bring in other teams to work with, or it's something that we have to work with the FDOT. I can tell you we've also gotten a lot of calls, and I'm sure you guys as well, for what happens with the BRT and the transitway. At the moment, within the city, there's about 12 ongoing projects that have been going on. We have several new intersections. We have a few school flashers that have been ongoing. We've also had some projects with developers. There's 12 projects that have been ongoing. We've also had 6 different retimings of corridors that we have done in the last year to year and a half, starting from 2024 through 2025. With retimings, we don't have any necessarily planned out directly. Actually, what we have kind of done for the city of Homestead is we are going to be looking at all the corridors that run and cross the BRT to see how we retime all of that to create a better coordination. BRT, again, impacts the adjacent intersections, and there is coordination issues that we're working through that right now, but we foresee in the next year that we're going to have to go beyond those to make sure that we're coordinating all the approaches to get across the BRT, so that is part of the plan that we have moving forward. Okay, so with the BRT is obviously, a major investment by the county. It's the first real big project that's been done since the extension to the MIC. This is a 20-mile project. It's one of the first ones being carried out under the SMART program. It is providing 24-hour service along a 20-mile dedicated transitway. Right now, there's 2 services that are running on it, the Metro Express, as well as the Transitway Local that has a few more stops. There are 14 express stops along the way, and there's 30 total local stops. This was designed or anticipated. The goal was always to have a faster, more reliable regional mobility service. It was intended, and the conceptual portions behind it is to try to have the buses run as a train without having to stop at all the intersections. And we give each bus a transit signal priority to try to make sure that the buses don't have to slow down and be able to move people quicker through the corridor and through all the way up to the Dayland South Station. What we've seen from the beginning, once services started, one of the things that I think took everyone by surprise was the demand that existed for this service. We have seen much higher ridership than was anticipated. We've seen a growth of almost 2,000 riders compared to the previous express routes. So far, we've gotten good reviews on the stations, the buses, just the overall experience. That doesn't mean there hasn't been any hiccups, but for the most part, the feedback that we've been receiving on the services has been positive. The department did put out ambassadors to try to educate people, give them information, flyers, and get a lot of feedback. And that feedback has been quickly addressed. We've done a lot of small improvements to try to help riders. And the afternoon and the off-peak travel times are within the goals that were always established. But again, we are seeing this system work in its infancy, and we're cleaning it up and moving forward. The project is still with the design build firm. They are still working on this project. So for the most part, transit and even traffic signals and signs, we are giving recommendations where, they've let us into the kitchen while they're cooking and they're taking our advice, but for the most part, we still can't stick our hand in the pot. So understand that we are trying to make improvements while they're working without trying to throw off their project and impeding them from crossing their finish line, which again, hopefully the project is anticipated to complete. The complete major work is supposed to finish by the end of this month, but then you have a couple of months of cleanup and punch list items that they're going to be cleaning up. What we've seen with pre-BRT and post-BRT, the biggest thing that we've kind of seen that's really, again, impacted how this project started from design concept to where we are in delivering this is there's been a large increase in demand. We are seeing more buses than what we anticipated, both in local buses as well as what we see for the Metro Express. The demand has increased the number of buses that have to be on there. And again, the moment you have more buses, you have more preemptions and more signal priorities that impact how the signals all work. And to be brief on how the signals work, we try to coordinate the 2 and 3 signals that are next to with the transitway. We try to have a coordinated movement. However, when the bus says, "I'm coming," everyone else has to stop and let the bus come. So it starts to throw off that process, and there's a lot of little iterations that go into that process. When does it call for the preemption? What's happening when the preemption is coming? And how do you come back to service? So those are a lot of the things that we have to continue to work on, and that may take a little longer to clean up, as we go through it and see how we fine-tune it, how we get it to work better, how we accommodate the number of buses and travelers that are on the busway, as well as the traffic, the increased demand that we're seeing trying to cross the BRT. We have been working with Homestead for a few years, even before the BRT. We know that traffic has been growing within the city. The city has seen growth of its own. You have more developers, and you have more developers coming. We have plans with developers that I think they're going to be introducing another 5 signals in the next year. And again, signals are there for safety, but they do add delay and interruptions. They are the referee of the road, trying to make sure there's no conflict, but they're there to try to help move people, and we try to time them to help move people along. But listen, a signal ultimately, in order for there to be safety, there's going to be some delay, and we try to minimize the overall impact. So we're trying to work through these with everyone. From what we've seen, I know the city has kind of grown by almost 32% from what we see over the last 13 years. And it's not just Homestead. We've seen Florida City grow by almost 60%. The county overall has grown almost by 300,000 people, almost a 15% growth in the county. And again, we are trying to move people within the capacity that we have. Signals are there for safety, but we try to coordinate and try to move people safely at the same time, and efficiently and effectively. As I said, construction on the project is supposed to be completed by the end of 2025. We're hoping to be able to start and continue to optimize the signals and adjust them to support the revenue service. We also have the South Day Transit Operations Center that will be coming online early in the new year. And so we also understand, and the total number of signals that this project has impacted or touched or have the contractor has had to do work on is 112 signals over a 20-mile project. Within City of Homestead, that's actually impacting about 28 different signals just along the transitway. And every signal, it's not that there's just one timing plan. On average, our signals have about 16 to 17 different timing plans that go into effect at different times of the day on the different days of the week. So, in the mornings, you have a early morning timing, you have a pre-morning peak timing, you have the morning peak timing, you have the post-morning peak, and it goes like that throughout the day. So every time you start making adjustments, there is an impact. You have to work through all of those to make sure that you're moving the traffic in the direction it's going. Obviously, in the morning, there's more northbound traffic, and in the afternoon, there's more southbound traffic. So we try to coordinate that, and we try to move it through, again, a lot of signals, and we try to work with a lot of parties, the highways and such, so that we can move people effectively through the network of roads that we have in the county. We partner a lot with the FDOT and the Florida Turnpike Authority to make sure that we try to integrate our corridors and our network so that we are able to move people, especially as we come further south. Issues that we've had within the busway. We've seen a lot of locations. One, there's some that are there's delay just because of the volume that we have to start working on. Sometimes where we have volume problems, like on 296th Street, that's a corridor issue. There's about five intersections that we have to work through. Some of them are longer-term fixes because you have to increase the capacity. But for the most part, we're trying to work within what we have to try to improve the use of the existing capacity. 280th and 288th, we've seen that there is congestion from multiple directions. We've seen on 304 and 308th Street, there's actually been malfunctions in the equipment. We've made adjustments to try to improve its operations, or we've recommended a lot of adjustments. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it. We're seeing that there's improvements that we're working on the preemption activations, on how those work, on the sequencing between the gates, and also on the clearance times after the gates and before the gates come down. It's a lot of fine tuning that we're trying to work through. A lot of moving parts. One thing we have seen that we've been able to clean up a lot is there was a lot of testing and a lot of before the service started, we were still running buses and operating them and trying to move them, as well as testing everything at the same time, all within the same element. One thing we've been able to do is start cleaning up a lot of the remnants that stay behind. There's always a setting, a logic statement or something that stayed behind when they went into revenue service that they didn't clean out, and we're starting to see those, and we've been able to find them and clean them out, which has cleaned up some of the problems that we see. But again, there's also things that the contractor and the designers started down a path on. We have our thoughts. We believe certain things may be able to be done a little bit more elegantly, but we're not in a position where we can pull that string yet, because again, if we pull that string, we might unravel their project and much more complicated situations arise. So we need them to finish so that we can kind of come in and, I don't want to say we break it and then we fix it, as opposed to, breaking it while they think they're still working on it. A summary of the improvements that we've kind of completed. There's been additional buses that have been added for the Metro Express. They've also deployed a strategy where if buses are crowding early, there's a lot of demand from 344th Street. So as buses move north, they were finding that they didn't have the capacity to pick up more passengers. So they've actually added more buses standby within the corridor. That, again, good ideas sometimes show up and on the unintended consequence that come with them. We started finding where they were parking the buses were actually calling the signals. So we were having ghost busts. But For the most part, we are working through that. We have identified a number of those. We've been able to find it. We're finding better positioning and staging areas for the buses, and we're working through those issues that come up with that. And it's a good problem, I think, that if we have enough demand that we have to add more buses. Now, I come on the back end, we're going to have to add the system. We have to right-size the system and balance it out so that it actually handles the additional buses and everything else. We are learning this. It's going to be a continuous process. Hopefully, it is a process that ultimately leads that there are so many buses that this system has to be, we revisit the issue that originally came up, whether it should be a train or a bus. I think the main question behind it was ridership. And if the ridership is there and ultimately we end up evolving the system the way it's hopefully done, you know, that's I think the goal for all of us. So where are we and where are we going in the next couple of months? Well, in the short term, probably for the next 3 months or so, we need to get the project closed out. We need the contractor to finish their portion, pass their testing, and let us come in and start making improvements where, again, they've reached the point where they've done their work. They want to get graded on their homework before going back and revising and doing their edits. Well, we want them to move on so we can go in and do those edits. We need, again, we want them to move on. We want to be able to continue to evaluate the operations, figure out how we clean up some of the outstanding items. There's items, again, that we can recommend, but they are holding off on certain recommendations simply because, again, it is something that can unravel or open a Pandora's box of issues, and again, it can delay them finishing. So they want to finish, get graded on what they're doing so that we can move on and kind of come in beyond it. Midterm, which is probably the 3 to 8 months that you kind of see. It's not really long term. But once we've taken it over, we're looking at being able to balance out the system properly. Balance these preemptions versus what the demand is. Making sure that the bus operations and the signal operations are better harmonized and balanced. You want to right-size that operations. We also want to review the technology that's been put in place. Our experiences with traffic signals and dealing with this industry, there's always power and abilities within the technology that most contractors, since they're not familiar with it, they're just implementing it. They don't always implement the full power of a system that's come online. We believe that the preemption system that exists, that they have deployed, has a lot more power than they've actually touched upon. But again, they're to the point where they want to finish. They don't want to experiment, if you want to say it, call it that way. But I think once they're out of the way, we can experiment more and really use that power and really benefit the system overall. And then beyond that, again, the busway is going to be continuing evolution. We believe there's always going to be better technology that we're going to see how we implement it. Even as we deploy the county-wide ATMS project, which we terminated Unix from about 1.5 years, we have Econolite back on board, or the Econolite technologies are coming on board. We believe we're making a good choice on softwares that go with it. Those systems also bring an additional power that will allow us to implement other strategies with the signalization, from adaptive to traffic responsive technologies that exist within those. The application of AI is coming on board to be able to assist within these applications. So we think in the long term, there's a lot of technology that can ultimately lead to a much more efficient and effective system. And again, hopefully it's so effective that we draw the ridership and we ultimately need to go to the next level of transportation. The other issues that we received that Jerry's shared with us, one is obviously the signal synchronization, but I know someone, I think, brought up a concern over the signal head displays that occur at the busway. Throughout the busway, you're going to find that the far side signals are always programmable heads. Those are called programmable heads because they limit the vision, your ability to see them until you're up at a closer distance. That is a safety feature that gets put in place when signals are so closely spaced, so that you don't confuse drivers with two different displays, because you can see both signals from a farther distance. There's a number of locations we have seen that they still have to be added because you have multiple displays that people can see while they're driving up. So people are seeing a red behind a green, behind another red, and a green in between it, and it creates confusion, and you want to avoid that confusion, especially late at night, especially when people have been out, they've been drinking, they are not as attentive or not as familiar with the area. You need that additional safety to not confuse drivers, and you want to be, again, as safe as possible for the conditions that occur. We also had a question, I think they sent it that Councilwoman Avila had requested signalization at Waterstone and 137th. When we've talked with traffic engineering, there was two different studies before. One of them was that I think on Waterstone there was a demand, but that's a private road. They weren't able to pull data from there. But I think the concern now has been the traffic on 137th is creating problems for people entering and exiting. There is a study that's going to be happening. There is a data collection period set up for later this month once school has stopped. And there should be a reevaluation of the warrants for the traffic, so that recommendation may come out early next year. Okay. The other one, I think, is a concern with the pedestrian crossing outside, just outside from here to the university, to the college. I think the team has been communicating with the city. I think there's more information that has to be shared. I think one of the concerns, it's close location to the transitway. And what would be the control device, whether it's just going to be a regular marked crosswalk with crosswalk warnings, if there's a request for a signal, if there's flashing beacons that need to be put in place. I think that is where the concern comes. Again, just its proximity to the transitway and all the other signals. It's just something else that would need to be coordinated. Pedestrian signals, typically we try to coordinate them, but for the most part, pedestrian signals are on demand. They press a button. You don't want people waiting so long that they get impatient and they cross into the street anyway. You want to be able to service pedestrian crossing in a very effective and efficient manner without them having to wait a very long time. So you got to make sure we are able to coordinate that and function properly with how the transitway is, especially if we're already having delays in crossing the transitway. You're just adding another factor that can add a little bit more delay. So I think it's a conversation that we're having. But again, county, FDOT, and many others, we have prioritized pedestrian safety. So we believe that if it is required and needed, absolutely it should go in place. The question is, how do we best implement that and make sure that, you also don't want to frustrate drivers so much that they're going to ignore a signal or impact a pedestrian. Look, a car with a bus, people will survive. Pedestrian with a car, that's a whole different story, so we want to make sure we take the proper precaution with that. There was a question regarding the red speed permitting and a requirement that has come up with something that's called the MASH testing. It's actually the manual for assessing safety hardware. MASH testing replaced the previous testing that was in the Florida Green Book, which was the NCHIP 350 standard, which pretty much assesses what happens when there's a car accident with a device. How does it break off? How does it fall? How does it tumble? What is the impact to the driver when he hits one of these structures? How does it impact whether it goes through the windshield? Does it, there is actual testing for all of that. So this has been a standard that's been in place since 2016. For the most part, most designs are typically standard, so the MASH testing applies for various type standards. What we have seen with the red speed system is they introduced a new number of cameras and solar panels that differentiate what they were using as opposed to what you see with a regular signal pedestal or a pedestrian pedestal. And so they've, from a county standpoint, and even in our coordination with the FDOT testing lab, Turl, in Tallahassee, they've indicated, yes, all these devices need to go through this. When Red Speed came in and it was being negotiated, they were aware of this. It's part of the standard that was approved by the FDOT. So it was always required from the very beginning. They were aware of it. They've been working on it. I think some of the early designs that they did were not necessarily passing the way it needed to. But we are aware they are working on it. And then the last one, I think there were some questions on the general street maintenance. Flagler was brought up. We have been working with the city pretty well. Even more recently, there was a former supervisor that comes from our road, bridge, and canal maintenance, Mr. Harrington, was hired by the city, and he has all our numbers and who to call and how to get us out there, and he has been very effective in doing that. So we have worked closely with him in trying to address a lot of the sidewalk issues that he brings up and a lot of the pothole issues. But again, we are always open to work with the city and try to respond quickly to issues within what we're capable of doing. Okay, so I don't know if you have any questions.
Well, first, let me, and to Mr. Morales and Ms. Miller and Mia and everyone who came down, I want to thank you and welcome you here and appreciate the update. You know, understand that I think it's safe to say that for those of us in vehicles, the delays at every intersection at the busway are our foremost traffic complaint right now. It's not capacity of roads, it's not conditions of roads, it's delay at all times of day. And I know you all understand how frustrated I was, and I hope I was well representing my community in passing on the level of beyond frustration that, it seemed that, nothing was happening. It appears that there is a little bit of improvement at this point. It may be due to folks not going to school or going to work during the week of Thanksgiving. We're going to have some downtime in the coming weeks, but the proof's going to be in the pudding. But my takeaway here is you talk about in the next 1 to 3 months, the issues will be resolved. Don't take this personally, but when the county tells me 1 to 3 months, that usually means a year. I don't know if our people are going to, they'll be here with pitchforks and torches.
No, and I understand.
We need to see real progress.
And so you understand, and here in Homestead, even from the beginning of service, we have been focusing in this area primarily. There's already been a litany of improvements or recommendations made at about 28 signals. We have seen improvements on some, and there's been improvement, period, across the board. To the extent of the improvement, there's always work to be done. We do know that there's still more, again, longer-term repairs and fixes that have to be done. There's work that has to be done with the FDOT on US 1 to increase the throughput. Because it's not just sometimes the busway. What we started seeing is there's backups from US 1 that are touching the busway that now impact everything else. And you almost start to gridlock the system. But again, there is a limit to what we can do with FDOT. Some things are a little harder lift that have to be done. But we are recognizing and trying to, one, mitigate it as best we can in the short term, knowing that there's still going to be a longer term fix. But in Homestead, since there started new programming and retimings have started since early November. As early as November 7th, there were some retimings that went into place. Again, not everything works this first time. We have to come back and find the other problem that's creating an issue, and we've gone cleaning those up. So a lot of things did go in. We have a team that continues to come and evaluate what's been going on in Homestead. And it's not just Homestead. I want to make sure we understand it's Florida City and even some of the signals that are outside of the city because they all affect you. It's not like people in Homestead only use the Homestead roads to get out. They use other roads. And again, it starts to impact all of it. We are aware and we have been working on it. I invite all of you to come visit the Traffic Control Center. Councilwoman Avila paid us a visit. Hopefully we were able to show her that, hey, look, we have a team that continues to look. We have certain capabilities to see what's going on. We go and we test the corrections and we put it in place. And at the moment, there is a middleman and the contractor saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. No, I'm not. They have been cooperative. I can give them that. They've cooperated us to try to help us move everyone because, again, they also want to deliver a system that works for everyone. We want to make sure that people get as good a service as they can. What I'm trying to tell you is it may not be perfect. We're going to keep working at it. And we do foresee it being much better as we continue to move forward.
Thank you again. Thank you for coming down. Councilwoman? Oh, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Definitely thank you for being here. I have a little bit of a personal story. So I was first elected in 2016, and my very first official field trip was to go out to North Cali and Washington to see how some of these really impressive BRT stations moved. I appreciate all the information, but at the same time, you're not inventing a wheel. These are things that are working well in other areas. I do not understand how there's no formula or consultants you can work with. 304 and 308 you mentioned, that is my drive every day, going along the bus route to drop my 2 children off. Drop them off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon. I have to deal with it twice. There is absolutely, for me, no excuse of how lights can be red with traffic in all 4 areas on multiple occasions. If it takes someone an entire week to figure out one of the intersections, you got to do that. If you drove that every day, you would understand the frustration. There's no other way to go to be able to get to certain areas in our city. And to not be able to have the right consultant to figure out what the formula is, I don't understand. It's been long enough. I understand there's a bunch of moving parts that is way above my wheelhouse, but that piece with the signals, buses are stopped. Cars going this way are stopped, coming this way are stopped for minutes. It is, for me, I'm sure, I know, I understand, it's a lot, but for me, that piece, the signaling, there's a consultant out there that can help you guys fix this faster, and please find him or her.
Okay, and I'm not going to disagree with you because we have to understand where we are in the stage in this project. Contractor has put forth an effort. They need to finish. They want to finish their part and say, look, this was our belief of what would work. It may not be working perfectly, but I need you to grade my paper so that we can move on, and then we can come in and start making the more wholesale changes that have to. 308 is one of them where US 1 plays a big part because you have a lot of backup from US 1 that starts to impact the signal on the busway and even on Flagler. It's these little nuances that, trust me, my team is biting at the bit. They know they cannot touch it yet because, again, somebody else is cooking the plate. We can't add the spices that we believe need to be added. But
it's not Homestead, and luckily I don't have to go that far, but 288 is also. Yeah. So a couple quick little questions just to throw out there that I didn't think of earlier. When it comes to repairs in the fence, obviously there are areas where people get out, and that's a very common place that you want to take that next road over that's way down from where they can exit, the bus exit. Does that make sense? There's
fencing for the people that are using the busway.
Right.
If you send us any locations where the fencing is broken, we can repair that. Absolutely.
So I appreciate the repairs, but have you ever considered if that is somewhere that it's going to continuously be broken down to put some type of gate, or would that not?
that would take a more active traffic study. You also want to see the connectivity of to where they're going and what they're going to cross. You also want to make sure that whatever it is, and I know even with the college at one point there was a discussion of they had an opening that allowed them to cross, and there was a marked crossing, but it wasn't signalized. They wanted to signalize it, but that again, that just becomes a more complication to the operation. And that effort came in after the busway already was under design. So there's things that we can revisit after to see how we make it and how we do it so that it is, one, a safe crossing and an effective and efficient crossing.
Okay.
Problem sometimes with crossings is people don't cross the crosswalk. They cross wherever they find it, or they see a bus coming and they run across places. It is a challenge, but it's something that we hope to be able to get to and address it properly.
Okay. And then the last question was, we have, especially in those intersections, a lot of people taking, either taking the red or just thinking that they can make it on the yellow and that the cars will continue going, but they just end up completely stacked in the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever do just like a painted area that is a reminder that says do not block?
We are actually exploring that, trying to add signage as well as possibly pavement markings that would say, don't block the box. It's something that's being discussed to see how we can address that. We're also hoping to see, again, not that we want to have enforcement giving out tickets to enforce don't block the box, but at one point, we're trying to educate folks, get people used to how it works. Again, there's steps that we want to make sure we clean it up as best as possible before anything that may be punitive to other people were to take place.
Okay. Well, again, thanks for being here, and I hope to get re-excited about the BRT because I was all about the electric, the electric buses, higher ridership, make the rest of the traffic a little less in the city. So thank you for being here, and I hope to see a big difference soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to Director Stacy Miller, to Frank. Thank you for the tours of the Bus Control Center and the Traffic Management Center. It really was eye-opening, and I came in feeling like I knew everything, and then I left like, wow, super impressed. There's so many incredible employees that are part of making traffic work in Miami-Dade County, the engineers, the crew on the ground, and of course the leadership. And you're in a very tough spot. There's a lot of criticism, but there's so much potential and a lot of progress has been made so far. And while I was there and I was bringing up these critical points in our traffic, you were mentioning some immediate repairs that had been done to software, to locations, and I was able to confirm and notice significant improvement where the traffic just flowed, going through what we've been going through for the last year and then seeing the flow of traffic happening, like there's dopamine effect right there, like, wow, this is actually getting fixed, and it was a relief, to say the least. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I know that it is due to the efforts of this council and our management for being a very squeaky wheel and making sure that you hear us and you hear us loud, that we do need the relief. And I do look forward to the transitioning happening so you can take that full control and accountability for the continued work that needs to get done, and hopefully expediting the tweaks that need to happen to make the system run smoothly. I was impressed to find out about the 4 a.m. bus schedule that's coming out of South Dade and the increase in ridership, and that this BRT system is meant to convert to a light rail in the future. I don't know how long that'll take and whether or not when that ever does become a possibility, if we really want that with all the changes to driver behavior and the crossings that'll have to happen. But it's definitely forward thinking, and it's a testament to our mayor at the moment, who is really being criticized for this project. But the future, as you mentioned, Vice Mayor, if we could have effective transportation, it's really doing an efficient transportation, it's really doing a service to all of us here in South Dade. There were some items that came up in our discussions about the traffic currently prioritizing or having been developed to prioritize north and south movement. So given the current situations and the, the light coming to the east and west traffic jams, can we prioritize the east and west movement now versus north and south?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the discussions that came up in our conversations, that's the observations our engineers are coming across also. Again, we need partners in that, the FDOT and this contractor to finish so that we can realign the operation so that the signals function and coordinate more east-west, because for right now they've been primarily north-south.
Correct. So that was enlightening to me as well, that our traffic patterns and design have been predominantly north and south, but now is the time to maybe shift that focus. So I look forward to hearing about that. I encourage you to work with our staff and our management to develop like a task force here where we can continue data sharing. I was impressed to hear about how the 311 reports come in, how they're addressed, how they're filtered to the appropriate parties, and that they actually receive callbacks. So constituents get a call back from the department when they're working on an item. We're not seeing those reports. I would be interested in knowing what's coming out in terms of complaints from constituents within the city of Homestead, and knowing what work orders are being initiated because of those calls, and the turnaround times and for those repairs. So that would be good to know. With regards to evaluating the retiming of those intersections and those adjacent traffic lights, how soon can we have those evaluations conducted? For example, at 304th and 308, where we're having, in 296, although that's outside the city limits and it's affecting us, how quick can we have those intersections reevaluated for retiming on the adjacents? Or how, better yet, because I know you've already kind of started that, how frequent can we continue to look forward to having those reevaluations done? Can we have, maybe this will be part of the task force, can we have development services reporting, as COs come online? Because we'll approve projects, but then maybe they don't get built, maybe it takes forever to get built, and as COs come out, new developments, that should trigger new evaluations. Or what is the process if it's not like that?
Typically, when you have a new development, I'll just talk to process. Typically, when you have a new development that they're introducing a signal into a corridor, signals are based. Our signal system is based on coordinated sections, meaning anywhere from 4 to 10 intersections are coordinated. 4 to 10 intersections usually cover easily a mile to a mile and a half to 2 miles. So it stretches. So the coordinated section, especially in urban areas, signals are more closely spaced as opposed to every half mile. But so you have closer spacing. When someone's coming in, either because there's a safety project or there's a development that's going to require a signal, when we get it's called a controller timing request. The developer says, hey, listen, I'm putting this in. How are you going to how are you timing this in coordination with everyone else? Our team goes in, starts with a baseline coordination plan for that signal, but then takes a look at how the adjacent ones all kind of interact. Because now you've added a delay in that coordinated section, so you have to take that in account within the coordinated section. So there is work that occurs on the other ones. In any case, for the most part, we try to come back to corridors. If nothing has happened, every 4 to 5 years we try to come back to see, how's it working, how's it functioning. There's places in the county that nothing else changes, so the coordination patterns pretty much stay the same. There may be some adjustments based on now you're adding pedestrians, you're adding, something else is adding demand, so you may modify it a little bit. But for the most part, most signal patterns stay kind of true to themselves, but every 4 to 5 years we try to come back, revisit it, especially if there's also been other coordinations that have occurred on nearby corridors, so that we continue the pattern forward.
So every 4 to 5 years, and the example you were giving were specific to a new light coming in according to a development. But there are plenty of projects that come in that, whether it's residential or not, that don't trigger a new traffic light. Do we know when's the last time there was an evaluation to Homestead?
Yeah, we had, in the last year to 2 years, starting in 2024, what I have on our list is, there was, I think, 6 corridors that have been retimed.
Very good, okay, and if we can make sure we share those corridors with staff, that way we can have that data. One busway intersection or one area that I think is really important and priority overall, I know we spoke about 304 and 308, which impacts, me as well, so I drive it morning and night. But the police station is placed west of Crum Avenue. And when they come out to do a call, if they're coming from the station itself, they're hitting 2 traffic jams from the station on Chrome, and I think that's Second, and then on Washington and Second or Flagler, right there. So right coming out. That is so important for emergency vehicles to be able to get through from the west side to the east side, and vice versa. What is the county's emergency override protocol? Is there an option that you can work with the police department to make sure they can get through those intersections quickly and safely?
And by the way, I credit you because that was a great observation, and we hadn't even, I don't think you surprised the entire team because I don't think we had that on our map. But as we kind of explained, right now we do have signal preemptions that are push button based at fire stations, even some county police stations up in the northern end of the county. When there's an emergency, they press the button and it gives them a preemptive path through a program series of intersections. We do that, again, a lot with fire departments so they can get out and move. We typically sit down with them to make sure what the capability is that they have, what's the infrastructure that exists to be able to do that. But yeah, we can sit down with the City of Homestead Police Department and try to create a plan for them to be able to move across the busway. Busway, again, gets complicated because we're still trying to figure it out. We don't want to break what they've done so far. We'll break it after they give it to us, but for the most part, yes. We can come up with a strategy that
Thank you.
may able to help the police department.
Thank you. So we'll add that to the action item for staff and PD to work on. I think the display heads, the ones that you can't see beyond the one, I don't know anybody that likes those. And in the situation where we have that Christmas tree effect, green light, red light, green light, we want to be able to see if the light after the green is green or red, right? So you're going and then you're thinking you're going to get a green, but then you get a red instead, and you don't know until you're really close. That's a challenge, and I know that there's a method to that madness or a reasoning to it, but I don't know anybody that likes it. So if there's a petition to go around where we can eliminate those in Homestead, I'll sign that one.
Keep in mind, you do that so you can coordinate them as opposed to them having to work together. Meaning either they have to be red together or green together, as opposed to you get your green first,
yeah,
and then as you approach, you get the next green, or so that you can move through. Mostly it's done for safety. The accidents that occur when people, and again, it's somewhat is carelessness. There's other factors that play a part that they say, well, I saw a green light behind it, and they took the red that was in front of them, and serious consequences happen. So. The hope is that we make the situation safe, and sometimes we do have to reprogram. They do move because of the wind and the visibility is impacted, but if you're having a problem, we can always go back out and make sure they're properly aligned.
Okay, and also like the brightness of it, even when you can't see it, it's still dim.
Yeah, because it's like a lens that's meant to
yeah.
dim it, and then I understand exactly what you're saying, but Sometimes we're limited in what we can do. But
Thank
yes.
you. Speaking about the crosswalks, we do need a flashing beacon at the crosswalk that exists on Kingman, right behind the Oasis Publix Plaza. So if we can add that to the list, manager. And then at the Cybrarium and the Homestead Police Department, we've requested a crosswalk there. I haven't seen any progress on that report. Do you happen to have that on a list somewhere nearby?
I didn't
Don't
have those
worry.
on the locations, but I can definitely get back to you.
Thank you. And then in Malibu, in my district, crossing from the north side of Campbell Drive to the south side of Campbell Drive near the school, Waterstone Charter School, there's a demand for a flashing crosswalk there as well. So if we can please have those considered, and I want to thank you very much for running that traffic study again for the Waterstone community. There is a petition going around nearing 450 signatures, so I hope those engineers agree with the residents of my district that we need one there, but if not, we'll keep trying, we'll keep pushing. And thank you. And I have seen significant improvement on potholes, so I don't know if I have to thank our city staff for filling those potholes or the county, but keep it up. All the above. Thank you for focusing on those. We've been living in these issues and this chaos for quite some time. And it was really enlightening to see that there is a separation between the busway project specifically and then what we're experiencing as ancillary or side effects of the busway project. But those are two separate issues. The timing of the lights is complicated in and of itself, and that's an ongoing thing. And I think it's really important, especially now, that we continue to maintain the communication lines open and that we have that relationship, because it almost feels like for the last year and a half, 2 years, although we've been living through the chaos of the construction and the implementation, that communication hasn't been flowing both ways. And so thank you for being here tonight. Thank you again to the director for making it a priority, for listening to us, for reacting to our concerns, and I'm seeing the effects of that. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and to continue to communicate. All right, I'll rest there.
Thank you. Councilman Ross?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and thanks for being here and sharing those thoughts with us. Just some observations. My office sits on the corner of Flagler and Campbell Drive, 312th Street. Those three lights, more so the Flagler light and the busway light, seem to always be opposite of each other, causing backups sometimes all the way to US 1 or beyond US 1 going east. The new thing I've noticed there is that as the Flagler light changes to red, those that are approaching it from the east to the west are blocking the north-south traffic pattern. So the people that are sitting there waiting for that light to change north and south can no longer get through the intersection. So I think somebody mentioned that there needs to be a do not block type signage put up in that area. The other thing I noticed, occasionally you'll be sitting at, and I'll use 308 Street as an example, coming east, and multiple buses are coming through there and triggering before the lights will change. So in other words, a bus will come through, arms go up, another bus approaches, they go right back down. So I'm not sure who's watching the staggering of the buses and which buses actually trigger the arms to control traffic heading east and west. Those are the things that I noticed there. There was a time where I had to actually call the city manager that the light on the busway at Flagler and the busway, those lights stayed red heading east-west for 30 minutes. They never changed. And eventually HPD came out and apparently they had a key to the box and they were able to reset it. I don't know how you avoid those problems in the future, but I would think that those things could self-check and self-evaluate themselves as well, that something's wrong. right, with that particular light at that intersection. The way the lights, when you approach the lights, I forget what the term was, but they're dimmer in the front and they change. That intersection at 312 and Flagler has had, I think, more accidents in that area because of that, because you can't see what you're coming into. In other words, you're coming through that first light at First Ave, and you're thinking that the light's going to be green, but it's red, and the north-south traffic is flowing, and that's when you have a collision there. So it's gotten better over time, but I think I can agree with my colleague and maybe others that those lights, I think, create more havoc than a safety thing, because you are anticipating a green behind the green, and a lot of cases at Flagler, we have First, the busway, and Flagler Ave. One's red, one's green, and one's red, and the one that's green is the one that is keeping everybody from going, because the one to the west of it is red. So there's some signalization or some synchronization there that is really not good there. And that's a hard intersection, because there's three lights, bang, bang, bang. You know, 11th Street, which is 308 Street, it gets so bad there that, you know, especially during peak times when the schools are coming out and the buses are moving around, and it just creates a whole lot of craziness there at Old Dixie and 11th Street. So I remember during construction time, we had issues on Campbell again, and they told me that they didn't synchronize the US 1 light with First Ave, I think it is, and then the busway in Flagler. And I thought that was kind of a strange thing too, that they all should kind of work in coordination with each other. If traffic is flowing, it should flow. If it doesn't, then it stops, because it'll be backed up from US 1 west all the way to the busway and beyond, and sometimes it goes all the way to Chrome Avenue. So I'm not sure why that's happening either. So, I mean, I'm sure these are all simple things to fix in the future. I'm shocked that you don't have any control of the lights along the busway and all of these intersections. These guys aren't building lights anymore. I don't even know what they're out there doing, because I don't see anybody working anymore out there. So I think you said they're going to turn this over to you January 1st, right?
Well,
Does that
January
close out?
1st, it's pencils down, and then they go into punch list before final acceptance testing.
Right, but I mean, at this point, they should be able to turn over the signalization, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're not scheduling the buses or when the buses are en route. But I think that the staggering of them is going to help also, because when you sit at a light and it comes down and goes back up and comes right back down again, that's not good. I mean, they shouldn't be that close together, I don't think. I don't know how many buses are riding from Florida City to US 1 that have to go a different route off of the busway. The way I understood the busway was going to be strictly for moving people from Florida City to Dayland and back to Florida City, and they can get off along the way, obviously. So I don't know how many buses run that way. And curiosity to me was the ridership you mentioned too, is I don't see a lot of people on the buses, to be honest with you, especially at nighttime. You can see inside of those buses at night because of the lights inside the buses. And I don't see a lot of people riding the buses. So I'd really like to see what the passenger count really looks like, because I'd rather move from this to light rail or overhead rail in the next 15 to 20 years, so that as much building is going on down here, and you mentioned it, Florida City has increased their residency capacity by 60%. That's huge. And that affects all of our roadways throughout the city of Homestead. It affects our police department with demand for, accident 17s, whatever you call them, along the way. So I don't want to beat the horse, that's dead already, and I appreciate you coming down, and I appreciate Mia and the staff from the county from coming down here and listening to us. I think the last time we had a stab at these people was when Carlos Jimenez came to our place and said, well, promise to have the busway up by 2022. Well, here it is 2020, almost 6, and it's still not completed, but it is what it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fletcher.
Yes, thank you all for coming down and providing us information. As you can see, there's a lot of data here. Is there a way we might be able to get like a one-sheeter with highlights on it that we might be able to provide our residents and like a mail out to give them like a progress report of what's going on and what we're addressing?
We can get you the information. I don't know if
It's going to be a one-sheeter or not. You know,
really
I
small.
get it.
It's not really small font, but yeah. We can try to get you the information, and if you have specific intersections that you want us to send you that report, I can definitely cut it back down.
So I'm going to be a little selfish here. Homestead has 5 major intersections that we need to focus on. You know, that's 15th Street, 11th Street, Campbell Drive, Chrome, and Bowery. Observation today, I'm sorry, you probably heard my phone go off and said this way. I just wanted to check how long it would take me to get from here to my house, which is 3.4 miles. It said 14 minutes. I used to do that in 5. Yeah, that's wishing for good fortune in the future, but I sat today and I watched 2 buses come, one right behind the other, through the intersection, and they were through the intersection and the gates went back down, and there was no buses coming the other way. Do they have like a signal item on the buses that causes the gates to go down?
Yes.
So maybe we
the
look
bus
at...
should be signaling for it. The gates are there's a device on the bus that tells it within a certain geofence, typically anywhere 1,000 feet away, that it's coming and the gates should start. That doesn't mean we don't find
Yeah, so
the
maybe
anomalies,
the
weird-
directional anomaly when they
Yeah.
get through the intersection may be causing them to go back on.
Yeah.
Just something to take a look at. I appreciate my colleagues bringing up the issue with public safety. Wanted to look if maybe we could get those preemption repeaters and patrol cars and fire rescue vehicles down the road. I know it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's probably quite expensive, but something to think about. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I basically said, you know, I want 3 things for Homestead: more jobs, a Faena hotel, and the rail. And he told me, well, I can hold my breath on 2 of those. And I don't think rail was one of them. But what is the threshold for moving to a rail system? How many buses is it going to take before we move to a rail?
That's outside of my area of expertise, so I don't know how to answer that one.
Nobody in the county has looked further down the road to try and figure that out. Just thinking out loud.
There's others that do work more closely with the FTA and their requirements. But
So that might be something that if you could provide some insight to us so we can provide that information to our constituents, I think it's very important that we're able to do that.
from a signal side, absolutely get them on the bus.
Gotcha. And if we decided to move to rail, does anybody know what that timeline would be? Say, hey, we're going to move to rail. Now we got to do 5 years of planning, 6 years of more planning, and then decide to start doing construction, and that takes 10 years. Has there been a long-term plan put out for the future for that?
Thank you for that question. So as part of the original project development and environmental study, most of that analysis was completed. That was many years ago before we decided the current scenario of our bus rapid transit and the conversion of the busway to the transit way. We can get you information regarding threshold analysis. It is a complex process by which they determine it's not just the number of potential passengers, but there's formulas associated with what the construction cost will be and the cost per rider in order to move from one type of transit to the next. So we can provide kind of a framework for that information. In order to move to that, we would have to do a project development and environmental study and complete an entire process. Now, when that will happen and what the process of doing project development and environmental studies and all of that analysis in the future, there's lots of changes happening on the federal side and on the state side on how to streamline a lot of these processes. So we can give you a basis of what that would be based on our current scenario, but obviously the mechanisms by which we do those studies and move projects forward constantly evolve and change, and our goal is to shorten those timelines. But ultimately, the issue is the cost to construct, operate, and maintain a system into the future. And those really become the key issues that we have to focus on. Once we realize we've met the threshold to move from one type to the next, that we've met that cost per rider threshold, then we have to talk about how do we amass the resources necessary to build the so for the capital program and then operate and maintain. Obviously, operating a bus system, the bus rapid transit system, is a much different cost than operating rail, whether it's light rail or heavy rail.
No, I thank you for the information. It's one of those things that kind of makes you go, it's I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because I think just the constant moving into South Florida we don't even know what the full impacts are outside of our city limits, but it's tremendous. And we haven't even looked at the Far East side yet. So I appreciate your information. I don't mean to put you on the spot and try, but we have to look to the future, and there needs to be a plan put in place, and we're just not seeing it. But again, I thank you all for coming down and providing us this information, and whatever that is, that information, 1 or 2 sheets that we can provide our residents, I think, would show them that we're doing the job we're supposed to be doing, and ultimately the county is going to do the job they're supposed to be doing.
We've already produced, we'll call them a one-pager, but it's a front and back. We produced one right after our first week of service. We've produced one right after our first month of service, showing some of those trends and some of the specifics associated with the signalization, gate arms, et cetera. They're not as detailed as you might like, but we're more than happy to share those, and then we can create something more detailed if that's what you're looking for. We anticipate our next one-pager will be probably around the February-March timeline. We need to get enough data, and we need to have enough information to be able to show trends at that point.
Got it. Well, I would think for now, we have their PowerPoint.
Yes.
We can glean information from that. I mean, we did have the priority page and a time frame page that I think would be very beneficial, and think on the lines of your next, your 1 to 2 pager. Let's call 90 days the end of March. Perhaps we can come back and have an update.
Yes.
Into March, early April, as to where we are on signalization issues.
I have some other things, but we'll do that through the email process, not to belabor this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman, real quick.
Sorry, and I want to give Councilwoman Konski an opportunity after me as well. And I see his finger on the buzzer too, but before you walk away from the podium, I want to just ask, and I know we're talking to Miami-Dade County, not Florida Turnpike, but since you're here, and if you happen to have any influence, with any of the powers that be relating to Turnpike, we had them here recently, and they're expanding the Turnpike from Campbell Drive to Tallahassee. But they're going only from 2 lanes to 3 lanes, and what we really need is to 4 lanes to match up to 216th. And they were telling us that the 3 lanes would satisfy us till 2045. I mean, there's no way we can accept that, and construction is already underway. So what the ask is if there's any way to get them to do a change order on the current project to facilitate 4 lanes instead of just 3, that would be really appreciated. Don't say anything, don't make any promises or anything, but if there's any way to get that done, I will make sure you get the credit for it. But thank you, I'll rest there.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, real quick, I got so focused on traffic lights and signalization. You mentioned the paving, or repaving and redoing Flagler in this fiscal year. And I know that we're trying to coordinate with the sewer system that we're going to be putting underneath Flagler again, so not to do it twice, basically. But the portion of Flagler from Campbell to US 1 going north is in pretty bad shape. I don't know if you have an opportunity to drive on your way out of here. If you just go straight down Flagler, you'll see it. That's not a part of the sewer repairs and maintenance and stuff we're going to be doing on Flagler on this side. I believe, is that right, Zuri? Yeah, so we're doing sewer from Campbell or south to Chrome.
Chrome.
Okay, so that area could be attacked now and then continued on to the future when we get done with what we have to do, so we have to repeat. And then this is just an observation. You can answer. I get one more thought before I forget it because I don't write notes down. I have to do it from my head. Just as a matter of being more efficient, in the area that I live in, the villages, we recently reached out to the county to come and restripe our intersections, our crosswalks, and those things. And they mentioned, whoever the property manager was, mentioned to me that they put the order in for all of them to be done, but because each of them is an individual intersection, they don't come out and do them all at the same time. I thought that was kind of weird, that if you're standing and you're doing one intersection, let's call it South Canal and Audubon, there's three stripings there, three stripings there, that you would take 4 weeks to complete it and come out and do each intersection at a time and leave and come back and do that next intersection another time and then leave and come back and do the next one. That didn't seem to be very efficient when they had the work orders all put in at one time. Just something for you to think about, something to work on, because I just don't think that's very efficient to send them out to one location, do 1/3 of the job, and then leave and then come back out. And these are very minor repairs or restripings that they're doing. That's all. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, thank you for the invite. And County, thank you for coming. I have a couple questions and I have a couple comments as well. You mentioned the higher amount of riders. Is that the whole transit way or is that to Homestead? What area are you seeing higher riders and buses full?
So I appreciate that question. What we are seeing is we have about the same total number of riders currently within the corridor. They were spread out over a different series of routes previously, but we have seen a higher increase in Metro Express. So we now have two services, Metro Express and the local service. So what we've seen is a large transition of local service riders to Metro Express, fewer stops. Obviously, the expectation is that you're going to meet your destination faster. We've observed that. We realize that ultimately there may be some changes in people's behavior in choosing whether they take Metro Express or the local service. We have seen crush loads, which means that there are more passengers than we have seats or standing room only on our buses at peak period. That is in the early morning, starting at the 344 and moving north, as well as coming out of Dayland South. We are seeing crush loads coming out of that. Again, more riders than we have seats or standing room only on our buses, which is why, as Frank mentioned, we are adding additional buses to try to deal with those peaks right now. So we're trying to even out some of those service routes or service times. We have had actually to start service at 4 a.m. We originally started our Metro Express service at 5. We've now added a 4, a 4:30, and a 4:45 because we have a massive volume of passengers who wish to use our services very early in the morning. Those were not things that we had observed when we originally started our service plan. So we're trying to adapt to our ridership, but ultimately have to work with the Florida Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration before we can make major changes to our service plan. Those were things that were agreed upon by those three agencies, and we have a 1-year period by which we have to observe, do minor tweaks before we can do major service changes. We already have things that we're contemplating and discussing amongst ourselves that we want to be able to bring to the attention of both the Florida Department of Transportation and Federal Transit Administration. I think somebody did say they don't see a lot of people on the buses. I will tell you, we have more riders at 2 o'clock in the morning than I ever thought we would. There are still about 10 to 15 riders in the middle of the night. But for the most part, once we get past that crush number, we have a large number of patrons throughout the day. It starts to taper off as you're going Northbound, as the day progresses, it starts to taper off, and southbound in the opposite direction. But we are seeing excellent ridership at this point, so we're very excited about that.
2 to 5 a.m. It's when you do not want to ride the bus.
Now,
You,
obviously, it's different service that we provide during peak periods than that we provide during the day, but that's all going to be on those wonderful one-pagers that we're going to provide. Talks about all that service.
ridership, that's that's increased the demand or the desire to be on the public transit. So we are improving the system, so we're increasing the volume of riders, is that correct? So with that in mind, would it be to our advantage to think further down the road, knowing that we would have more riders and kind of bypass the second step and go on to the third step, knowing that we're going to increase capacity, getting back to the railway?
There are still thresholds. We are far from those thresholds. And again, there is a process by which we would need to work through. And it's a step-by-step process. It's engineering justification. They really frown upon skipping steps in that process. Oftentimes, it sends us back to the beginning if we haven't met all of the criteria associated. So we want to methodically make sure that we're meeting that criteria. We are not close to those thresholds. We have other projects that we need to work on, but we're, of course, always observing and noting each individual route. But again, we haven't necessarily increased our ridership through the transitway as yet. We're still at that same number. We've just increased the number of users on the Metro Express service versus the local service. But still, at this point, still about the same amount of ridership. Our goal is to grow that ridership, but we don't know how quickly it will grow.
It was always the plan when the Metro Rail was implemented that it would come all the way to Florida City, correct?
I was not here during those discussions.
Yes, it was. Concerns to safety. I actually live on 304 Street, so I probably travel it as much or more than anybody else on council. And safety is an issue, and I appreciate you telling us that you focus on the north and southbound traffic. That makes a lot of sense as to why we're having so many issues east-west. Because it has been such a prolonged issue, people know the light's not going to turn. So as Bailey mentioned, they're taking the red. Not only are they taking the red, they're going in oncoming traffic when they shouldn't, when they're approaching lights, knowing that it's not going to turn, because we have picked up on our own patterns of when things work and when they don't. To the extent to the north and southbound traffic, that flow is easier, and there's many who will go ahead and bypass the intersection, either north or south, make a U-turn in the road, an illegal U-turn, so that they can make the right because they can't make the left. So that's an additional safety hazard or safety issue beyond, our public service. So,
thank you for that observation.
I know I've seen some glimpses of hope. It was a aha. I was like, whoa, what happened? The traffic's flowing as it should. So I'm like, they've done something, and I kept saying they've done something. Something has happened, and then it went back to another 3 red lights. Light turns green, arm went down, nobody could go anywhere, and here we are in gridlock again. So I appreciate that you are addressing the issues. I'm just asking that you press a little harder. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your time.
Again, thank you all. Appreciate your spending the time with us.
I'm sorry, because I don't know when I'll get you back. Mainly for management, thank you, Mayor, through the mayor. We have a very young traffic master plan. I would like to have the team review that. I know that Kimberly Horn is still working on it, but there are redesigns of intersections on this long list of wish list of traffic improvements, and we had been discussing it during our traffic management tour to have those looked at sooner than later.
So what the council member is talking about is a transportation master plan. It's not traffic. I know you have original exclusive jurisdiction on traffic engineering, countywide. Typically, once those locations are being designed, it's routed to the county for review and their blessing.
That I understand, but that's like once it's designed. But if
Yeah.
there's a way to get it kind of pre-reviewed, peer-reviewed per se, I would appreciate it. If it doesn't, you could do it.
We're more than happy to work
To
with
take a look
Ziri
at
and
it?
his
Yeah.
team. We are more than happy to look at your master plan. Our planning team is more than happy to assist, and then we can take it on an intersection by intersection basis. We do have some standards that Ziri and his team are very familiar with that can be utilized initially, and then we can talk from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Real
Okay,
quick.
thank you. Yes, thank you. And I
Real quick, one more
appreciate it.
thing.
Thank you.
One more thing. Zuri, is your want list, is it the intersection of 312 and 152 Street, the redesign of that because of all the accidents we keep having there
The turnpike entrance.
in the turnpike entrance too, right?
Not them.
Well, no, I think it's part of them because of the way the northbound lanes are facing, people who are in the second left turn lane are the ones that are going
Go straight.
into the lane to get on the turnpike. So there's a re-engineering that needs to be done in that intersection because of the number of accidents that have been occurring there since whenever that redesign was. And
So council had passed a resolution which was sent to your office as well, and we're happy to follow up. It was sent to the county, the FDOT as well, and for us, and also elected officials countywide. That location is a very dangerous intersection because of the lane assignments and the traffic circulation. Majority of the challenges there is primarily with FDOT, not with the county. The county is in respect to retiming the signalization as well as the lane striping on the south side of the roadway. We're happy to follow up with you. But just before you step out, I know that we had sent a request for additional funding for Flagler. The county has some funding for it, which we feel very strongly is inadequate. We're asking that you use your good offices to see what you can do, because the county scope of work for that corridor is completely incomplete. There is no provision for rehabilitation of the sidewalks along that corridor. And the county proposes only resurfacing of the street, whereas there is need for drainage. So these are some of the scope changes that we had requested your staff to look into, which has not been met with some positive response.
We are happy to discuss that further.
And Frank, please, I know council member talked about 311 data. I just want to kind of ensure for completeness, 311 is a county-wide platform for reporting county business, unless you're within City of Miami, where it's for everything in City of Miami. For us in Homestead, it's primarily going to be mosquito control, transit, as well as county-maintained roadways. That's the only thing you can report 311. The rest you have to route through City of Homestead or Fix It Homestead. Okay? Thanks. We'll talk to you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on what Councilman Roth was saying about the traffic light going north onto the turnpike, that light is missing an overhead, not an overhead, a traffic sign that says like straight or left turn only. And if it has those, that would help significantly.
So the lane assignments.
Correct. And there's a sign to the right in the on the right side of the lanes, but that's being missed by many.
There's a couple of different things, and obviously we'll talk with the Florida Department of Transportation. So there's obviously overhead lane assignments that can be added if the structural member that's up there, the mast arm, can hold that sign. There's also additional supplemental pavement markings that can be added that help put people in the right lanes to make the particular movement. So we'll look into that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night. All right. Let's go back to tab 8. The budget amendment to account for the loan we approved.
Yes.
Yeah, let him read it. Let him read it first.
This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the budget for the Water and Sewer Utility Fund for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025, ending September 30th, 2026, by increasing the total budgeted revenues and expenditures by $12 million, providing for severability and an effective date.
I beat you to it.
And seconded by Vice Mayor, moved by Councilman Roth. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll. Any public comment? Let's have a roll call vote on tab 8.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Konsky?
Yes.
Councilman Carnival? Vice Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, very good. Mr. Manager, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, tomorrow is the annual Miami-Dade County League of Cities conference, best practices conference. It's going to be at the Biltmore. I'm suppose most or a majority of the council members had already registered for the conference tomorrow. It'd be nice to have a strong presence from the city of Homestead. And also, I had already mentioned the grant amount that we got from the state for $4 million. And also, the city of Homestead has been rated as a top public employer of the year for 2025 by an entity that we're waiting for their confirmation before we share information with council. Also, the new director for Cybrarium has assumed duties. He's going to be starting off on the 12th, his name is Mr. Vaidehi Franks. Miss Franks. The current director is relocating back to Texas, and the transition is on the 12th. Thank you, Councilman Roth. Your sponsored program for federal aid for federal employees. Two individuals have so far received support from the city of Homestead. One for the maximum amount of $500 and another for $442. There will be infrastructure upgrade within the city chambers with video upgrades and enhancements, as well as the audio. It's going to start on the 19th, and we anticipate to be completed just before Christmas on the 23rd. It's going to be handled by IT. And we're happy to announce that the emergency management is commencing the second cohort of the Community Environmental Response Team, CERT. I think Councilwoman Avila, you had indicated interest at some point in the past that you would like to know more about this. These are the city residents that we train to be the eyes and ears of the city for emergency response, be it flood or any form of response programming. So that program starts on the first week of January 8th, and we hope to finish by first week of February. Now, Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levin Carver is scheduling a meeting on Monday, December 15th, for all county mayors to discuss some of the several iterations of tax bills that are in Tallahassee today. And majority of the tax bills are hoping to eliminate property taxes statewide. It is of tremendous impact to all cities and counties. So she's assembling all county mayors and all city mayors to come in and strategize on a coordinated response to the bill. So I will ask for council members that are willing and available to join at that meeting on Monday, December 15th at County Building. Thank you. Oh, just one more, I forgot. Just a reminder, Friday is Employee Appreciation Day. We're asking Mayor and Council to be able to join us. It's going to be at FICO Williams, just like we did last year. So please join us, and it will be an honor for me to ask city employees to take the rest of the day off after that event, which usually will end about 3 o'clock. So I don't expect them to go back to the offices all over. Thanks.
Very good. Mr. Attorney? Very good. Well, since we've already run way over time, and I've been quiet tonight, let me throw a couple of nuggets out there. Mr. Manager, I want to thank you and staff that had Harris Field renovated, painted, upgraded, lighted, had those big old fans in there on time for the Rotary event on Friday night. Much appreciated. What an improvement. Anybody who pays attention really saw it, and it's a really a nice upgrade there. Councilwoman Bailey, your art event blown away once again. Just the crowds in the park when I was there 2 nights. I guess it was Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. Well, I was over Sunday afternoon. You know, the kids on the ice, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. I do want to reiterate, though, that in talking with Alexis Lambert, the Secretary of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection that administers and awards these grants, that the $4 million grant that we've got notice of, that she was very clear to me in a one-on-one conversation that our ability and willingness to put our own money, our own skin in the game, really tilted the balance in our favor to be awarded the full $4 million that we requested. So I think we all need to be very proud and acknowledge that we were forward-looking and establishing this trust fund. We'll continue to replenish it and have other transactions that will put money into it. I think we turned $5.5 million into $9.5 million. It's a big deal. I just wanted to say that. So if there's nothing further, Councilman Fletcher?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just quickly, if I could get everyone to provide a name that might be willing to join our Tourism Advisory Committee. We're having some issues gaining quorum, and I'd like to add some additional folks to that committee so we can have quorum and move forward, if possible, through your office or the city clerk's office. Thank you.
How many positions?
I need 3, but I'll take names from everyone and we'll
figure it out.
Figure it out.
And if we get the clerk to advertise,
Yes.
to redo
Thank you.
that? Yeah. All right, is that it? Anyone else really quickly? Nope. We have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.